So something a little different for this week. I thought I'd give everyone a bit of an insight into how I work on things, how I train, and the different things that I work on throughout the week. This week, we're improving my hang 10's. So in terms of what I wanted to work on this week, I really wanted to dial in on my hang 10's. Obviously, I have been hanging 10 for a fair while now, and I feel like I've gotten to a really good level. But there's been some hang 10's in the past, and I can remember them that are fairly different from the usual hang 10's that I do with respect to how long I'm able to hold them and different, I guess, elements of style and technique that I use that I think really help, but aren't within the normal tempo of my surfing just yet. So what I'd like to do for the starters is break down 3 of the nose rides or 3 of the hang 10's that I have in mind, analyze them just for a second with you. We'll go surfing, we'll see how we go out in some conditions trying to, I guess, work on and dial these things in, and then we'll do a post-surf review of, I guess, how we think we went, if there was any success or not. I know it can be tricky sometimes, getting exactly what you want out of a session when you're working on it, but I think this might be a good way to do it. So let's roll into that now. So in the first hang 10 that you can see, I know I was trying to focus on staying really high, so it wasn't a perfect wave by any means, and you can see through the wave that I really do have to, I guess, feel like I'm trying to negotiate. It's not a super sucky or critical section necessarily, but every time I'm dropping lower, I'm trying to lift my body weight up so that that board can come up to the top of the wave. So that's something big that I'd like to focus on for this session coming up. Now the second nose ride here was from a fair while ago, and this is one where I was really trying to fall back onto my heels, and that's where I feel like the soul arch or the little kind of curve in my back really helps. But also my stance I feel like is a little bit wider on this, and it really felt like just a really solid platform to kind of lean back onto my heels and maneuver from the nose. So I think from this one the key takeaways are going to be something around making sure my weight is a little bit further back, and I'm willing to adopt that wider stance to distribute weight a little bit more evenly and smoothly from my right to left foot. This last nose ride was a little bit more recently, and it was actually, again, funny to think about, all of these nose rides have actually been at the exact same wave, so maybe that's telling you something more than anything else. But for this one, it was really interesting, and I'm not sure why it worked this way, so maybe someone in the comments can let me know, but I felt like I needed to, again, I was trying to keep myself high, and I was actually using my arms to lift myself, or I felt like at least that I was lifting myself up. I know all of my weight is still on that nose, but I think it might have helped to try and keep myself a little bit further up on the wave, high in the critical part. And also I felt like maybe it was a little bit better for my balance, and I feel a bit more reactive and ready to change position, change my distribution of weight from foot to foot. So something in the arms there that I think really helps. Definitely don't have a good understanding as to why, but it is something that I felt nevertheless. So they're the 3 main things that we're going to delve into for this one. Let's get into the edit, see how we go.
got some little waves out there. So I'm going to head out there now and try and see what we can do. Some nice little lefts, so a little windy, a little big, so we'll see how we go. But yeah, I'm just going to try and stay nice and disciplined out there and make sure that I'm focusing on what I want to be focusing on. I always find that's the hardest thing. Sometimes you go out there and you realise you haven't focused on exactly what you were planning, so we'll see how we go. So wanted to go through just a little bit of a run through and analysis of that session. I've had a look at the footage, but just firstly, it was such a fun session. I thought we were gonna really struggle for waves because this one was a little bit bigger, but yeah, this little left that we found really turned it on. Tricky for the log, but you know, that's okay. It's good to challenge yourself in those conditions too, and especially with wanting to work on the hang 10s, it was difficult, but we'll run through a bit of that. What I'm stoked with is it did take a little while out there, but I was finally able to pick off one that reeled the way I wanted it to, and you know, I got that hang 10 using those same sort of principles as to what I was speaking about before. So super stoked on that. Let's run through that one now. So with that, I was super happy. I stayed high. I was able to negotiate the sections, so extend that nose ride out a little bit more. I felt like, again, using the hands there, as we'll speak through soon, was pretty beneficial. I guess enabling myself to be a bit more nimble on my feet. I feel like I'm able to hold on for a little bit longer because if I need to, I can run back super quickly. But overall, stoked on how that one turned out. Let's go through the rest of the session now. So let's even start with maybe the things that I think were tricky or didn't go so well. So you'll see there was a few falls in there, and there's also some, I guess, nose rides that I think I probably didn't position myself correctly. Now, one of the big reasons for this was the waves were a little bit bigger. And so I feel like for myself, when the waves are bigger, I tend to hold myself out on the shoulder much further than I should. A lot of the waves, I was nose riding out on the shoulder and hanging 10 out on the shoulder. You see some instances there where I actually come unstuck. And yeah, what I really need to be focusing on is bringing myself a bit more critical, even in those conditions. Unfortunately, with the bigger waves, what typically happens is you're able to nose ride out further on the shoulder because you've got more speed, and you're able to stay nice and high on that wave with the speed. But obviously, for our critical nose rides, that's, you know, what we want to do. That's what feels the best, and it's where we get that really nice locked in and the lifting happening with the nose. So that's what we want to try and get to. So that's a big takeaway for me. Bigger waves, make sure I stay critical. There's the tendency to drift out onto the shoulder, so make sure that I am staying right underneath the pocket, and being a little bit more patient with that as well. I think patience was probably another big takeaway from this session as a whole. Sort of leading into that was, I think, one of the reflections I had was that I was almost trying to outskill the wave in a sense. So thinking about how I need to be focusing on what I do technique-wise over my position on the wave. So of course I'm going out there thinking, okay, make sure I'm leaning backwards, make sure I'm trying to stay high, make sure I'm moving my weight from foot to foot. And so I'm just focused on those things, probably even rushing a little bit because, you know, the waves were faster and I'm a little bit on edge. And also I know that I've got this challenge that I'm trying to fulfill. So I'm rushing a little bit, but what I did need to do is understand that, especially in bigger waves, you need to be in the right section. So I need to be patient and, I guess, be a bit more analytical as to where I am positioned on the wave and where I want to be, versus just trying to push my hang 10 on any section that presents itself. Which again, unfortunately, in big waves, you'll probably get a few shoulders that'll allow you to hang 10, whereas a smaller wave wouldn't. But you'll probably come unstuck, as I did, and you probably won't get that same lift or drive through the nose ride. So big takeaway for me there as well. The things that I think I did pretty well, overall, I think I had a super fun surf, and I think I was nose riding okay. I was extending nose rides out a lot by using my back foot, coming back to the hang 5 to the hang 10. So that was something, of course, like, I'm happy with how I'm surfing there. It's not the goal of that session, but still stoked on how I was able to, I guess, nose ride out there in general. Had a few fun little turns as well out there. The board's feeling really good in the bigger conditions. Definitely would have been trickier on that pink board I have just because of the volume. So super stoked that I have that in my quiver to attack those waves with. As I briefly touched on before, using the hands to elevate or to make myself feel a little bit more nimble. I was really stoked on how that worked out. So yeah, I struggled to put it into words before, but I think it just increases my readiness to come back if I need to. And so what I can then do is, instead of having to preemptively come back early because I think I'm going to nosedive, as soon as I feel that nose drop, I can come back if I'm ready to go back, if that makes sense. It is something I'm enjoying, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly why it works. Yeah, just something I'm having a little bit of fun with, and then potentially if I know how that, or what this is actually doing, I can then get rid of the hands and try and do it without, potentially. But again, this is just a work in progress. I think I was really good with staying high on the wave. Something I probably wasn't as good with, and this is where I needed to challenge myself a little bit more, but you know, I think I didn't want to lose my board, and I probably just didn't get to it in this session. Staying high in really critical sections. You probably see the waves. I'm not sure if it came across through the footage, but it was really fast, quite powerful, and pretty critical in some of those sections as well, which is why it's so much safer to be on the shoulder. So what I think I needed to do is to come into those really critical sections and just position my board super high. So big chance when I don't really feel super confident with that positioning in those bigger critical waves of falling, but you know, just going for that. And yeah, I think if I was to stay really high in the critical positions on those bigger waves, that would hold me, and that would produce a really, really good nose ride. So who knows, maybe that's next. Maybe that's the next challenge. But yeah, I think that's a good little takeaway that I'm definitely going to try and take on board into my next sessions as well. Something I probably didn't get to as much, and this is what I mean. I know I've spoken in previous videos about not doing everything that you want to do in a surf and picking too many things, and I didn't think about this, but look, I picked 3 things to focus on, only if you're focused on 2. Don't focus on too many things in a session. But I didn't really focus on planting my feet wider apart, so getting that solid box 10 to negotiate that weight transfer from foot to foot. I think that could really, really help as well, and that's definitely something that I need to, again, practice a bit more in the upcoming sessions to really dial that in. So definitely got a long ways to go with this hang 10 stuff, and moving myself up to the next level with that. But yeah, I'm pretty stoked that I got through those 2 things and was able to get that really nice hang 10 as well. I think that'll do for the analysis there. We'll wrap it up, and I think I am really enjoying kind of trying to delve into my own surfing and recording it in this way. So if you do like the format, let me know, because it's something I'm kind of excited about, and I hope that not only am I learning, you guys are kind of able to come along the journey a little bit as well, and hopefully have some takeaways for yourself, because all of this stuff in terms of, the things I did, the things I didn't do well, and the mistakes I'm making, and how I'm trying to rectify those, I think they could be really helpful for yourself and going out into your own sessions and stuff like that as well. So I think that's a nice, balance. So coming up, of course, we'll have another episode of the Sunday Glide coming up in a week's time, and then we'll have tip time coming on Wednesday. So if there's anything that you'd like to see covered in tip time this Wednesday, make sure you just leave those in the comments below as well. Happy to answer any questions that you've got there. I'll have to think about exactly what I'd like to be focusing on next week if I want to continue with this format. Maybe I'll be focusing on my drop knee turns, my backwards hang 10s, my nose tricks in general, reverse takeoffs, all of that stuff. I've got a big list, as I think I've described before, of the stuff I'm trying to focus on. So I'm pretty happy to kind of dance between those and work them out, and yeah, see how we go with that. I think that's it. So I hope you guys are getting some waves, and we'll catch you on the next one.